once again, this is your brother, Farouk Hunter, chairman of the Freedom Nation. And as always, I'm extremely happy to be talking to my citizens, to be talking to my fellow citizens. You know, it's important to remember that our organization is a little different than several other organizations of its kind, or even any other organizations you might be a part of. We holistically believe that regardless of the role that you play in the Freedom Nation, you are a citizen. Now, the citizen, for as high as that is, and for as simple as that is, I am a citizen, you're a citizen. We are equal brothers and sisters inside of our movement to bring about environments of peace and prosperity for Black Americans. That puts on our back a level of responsibility that we might not be used to having. So what I'd like to talk to you about today is about the expectations of a freedom citizen. Every last one of us, I went through my own trial by fire with trying to build the Freedom Nation. And every person who's a citizen went through their trial of trying to become a freedom citizen. Now that we are here, one thing is clear. We're here because we want to be. We're here because we believe strongly in our heart that we individually have the capacity and the capability to govern ourselves and bring about the best environment for our lives from our own efforts. From our own efforts. That's important. Your own effort requires two things. You must put in the effort. That's important. That's what we're here to talk about. As a Freedom Nation citizen, I'd like to let me say this differently. As a Black American, we are tried with a very unique construct, very unique. We are Americans. We don't want to do anything else but be Americans. We're not trying to be something else. Even if we return home and go back to whatever countries of our origin, as diverse as they are, the United States is of our origin, with our Native American blood, the Africa. We could get into long conversations about that, but we'll never be that. By citizenship, our core citizenry when we were born was as an American. But no group of Americans, not a single one, feels more disenfranchised from the ability to govern themselves than African American people. And it doesn't matter if our vice president is Black or our president is Black. It does not enhance the feeling about our mayors, about whether or not we can change a street sign, whether we have the power to get a couple $1 million invested in adjusting our roads that surround our communities. We have lived a life feeling constantly disempowered, disenfranchised, and segregated from our own governance. That creates a stigma. And that stigma turns around and inhibits you, sometimes by choice, but more than anything, just by mere feeling and understanding that it's useless to get involved in certain levels of politics, in certain councils, to run for certain offices. Even those of us who do, we find ourselves, let's go all the way up to Obama. And I say up because as his position he took as a politician. How many times did the Congress stop him? How many different people were against him? How often did Michelle Obama or other people ride down the street while people called them names, screamed and hollered things like nigger and everything else to them? And you're going to tell me that's the top? No. So it's just common. It's self-survival. It's self-preservation. It's common sense at some point to just check out. To simply say, I just don't want to involve myself in anything that's a waste of my time. So now we're in a place where we don't want to be involved or bothered by things that are ineffective. But even though you have that attitude, even though sometimes I have that attitude, let me tell you that the moment you became a citizen of the Freedom Nation, it changed. It changed. Let me say it again. It has changed for you. Now, the requirement is that you be involved in every possible way. There is no big white plan to destroy you in this organization. There is a big black plan to empower you, but we require your involvement. In the Freedom Village, we have a village council. We have elected Brother David Muhammad as the first village mayor. That was done by the citizens. We have this large document called the Condominium Declaration that gives power to our villages from a legal standpoint. But every single rule is approved by the citizenry. When you became a citizen, it was approved by the citizenry. If you don't like who's a citizen, it's your fault, because we have a rule that says 3 people can stop a citizen from becoming. That it requires involvement. We have several channels. We have our private Facebook group. We have our Slack channels. And most importantly, we have the portal. Some citizens will try to convince me that their lack of technical prowess justifies not using these tools. I'm going to tell you right now, if I got to drag you into the technical age, this is the hand that wants to do it. Because we have to. The modern age has given us the ability to coordinate with each other in a way that was impossible before. We would be fools not to use it. And now that there's been so much work done in the Freedom Nation to provide these tools, the only requirement of you is to learn how to use them. And it is required of you. It is an expectation that we have. So the first expectation of a Freedom citizen is involvement. Be involved. Our council has set up eight subcommittees. Get on a subcommittee. Get in control of the subcommittee that's in charge for our protection. The subcommittee that's in charge for helping us develop our events. Get in. Be a part of it. Show up to the events. We have a town hall meeting every year. It should always be full, because we should always want to engage one another in fellowship and be a part of the decision-making process. Volunteer. Woo, that's a big one. I know it's a big one. When you're sitting inside the community you might live in, if there's an HOA or an apartment that you live in and there's some organization, very few of us ever volunteer. We think it a waste of our time. I can guarantee you that in the Freedom Village and the Freedom Nation, it is never a waste of your time. It is always valued. You are always valued. And your input is necessary for us to move forward. Some of you might say, wow, he sounds kind of authoritative with his language. Well, I'm sorry. Look, we put in a lot of work to get here. We did a whole lot. We shook and put to the side any other expectation that anyone could fix our problems but us. We vested. In the beginning, it was me, my brothers, my sisters, but now it's over 100 families that are deeply vested in building this organization. The least you can do is make sure that while they were looking out for you and you brought yourself to this organization, that you stay involved. This is highly important, and it will be as excellent as you make it. That's number one. Number two, outside of just involvement, outside of just volunteering voting, being a part of the Freedom Nation, I want to cover number 2. Now, number 2, look, there's not much of a number 3. The number 2 is just as important as the number 1. And it's one word: trust. Let me say this again: trust. As always, I'm going to say it 3 times. Trust. Trust is the currency that we live by in the Freedom Nation. When you became a citizen, we trusted what you said. We didn't run a background check on you because we trusted it. When you first became a citizen, you are loaded with 100%. Your bank account of trust is 100% full. It is full. The only person that can diminish that account is you. If you engage in anything or with anyone who is a fellow freedom citizen, make sure that you understand that the engagements are based on trust. And once again, I'm going to speak to some of our habits. Let's go back a little bit. You know, there was an understanding, if you read the book Up From Slavery, Booker T. Washington, he makes a very interesting point about black people. He talks about how slavery was such a destructive mechanism. One of the things that was so destructive is that we allowed white people to make work into something negative. Think about that for a minute. To get up and go to work was bad. Getting over the mental inhibitions of that will forever be part of our struggle. Saying I'm sick in the morning, playing hurt when you're not hurt. These were tools that slaves used not to be overworked. They were survival mechanisms. In today's world, telling someone that you can pay a light bill or a phone bill when you really can't, not exposing your true situation. I lost my job. I don't have any money in the bank. It's something we stay away from because the people we're talking to do not have our best interests at hand. They will take from us. They will give hardship to our life in a heartbeat. But the more you become part of the Freedom Nation, the more that you involve yourself in the Freedom Nation, the more you start to realize that your home, the land you live on, the events you go to, the people you hang around, they are all vested in your success. So one of the requirements is, of course, that you do what's necessary to ensure that success. Trust, man. Trust. Trust. Our organization has been built to give an entire home loan based on trust. Man, do you have any idea what that's like? Do you know what it's like to engage people to surrender $200,000 to $300,000 in your favor simply because they trust me? And because they trust me, I've told them to trust you. Trust is a currency within inside the Freedom Nation that has absolutely no equal. I'm asking you to maintain that currency. Now, what is trust? We buy land from each other. We transact with one another. Trust is just your word is bond. Your word is your bond. Do you know what it means to be bound? To be binded. The older citizens know. Some of the younger ones, we don't know. We have to be taught again. Because we used to change it. Word is bond. No. Your word is your bond. It binds you. And you can't do anything until you've actually done it. As part of Freedom Nation, as black people, we understand that things don't always go right. There's no expectation that if you're making your money through a job, if you got a business that you're running, that things are always going to be well. There's no expectation. But trust is bonded, trust is increased through communication. Communication. It's through communication that we say, hey, things aren't right. Now, we try everything we can. We send a citizen liaison. We offer coaching service from the citizen liaisons. We provide a plan that you can fill out so that we know your goals and the things that you want to do, so that we can spot check to make sure that things are all right. As good citizens, we should call on each other. We should get used to talking to one another. If the least we can do is use the Slack platforms to talk back and forth to each other, to understand who's sick, who's healthy, who just lost their parents or their sister or their brother or someone close to them. This is a community. There is a third. It's the bonding part of the first and the second. Let me go over that again. Involvement. Stay involved. Trust. Maintain the currency of trust. And the last one, this is the very last one, is love. We are your brothers and sisters, hardened to the core. Whenever a set of people are vested in your success, that should be the foundation of love. Anybody who is vested in your destruction should be the foundation, I won't say of hate, but you darn sure ain't gonna be no friend of mine. So love is something that should be forwarded to everybody who particularly cares for you to succeed. It is love that binds us. It is trust that propels us. And it is your success that is driven by your actions and involvement. That is the fuel that makes the engine work. These are our expectations of the citizens of the Freedom Nation for now and for any foreseeable future. I ask you to hold me to these three concepts at all times: involvement, trust, love. And I will do the same for you. If you're slacking, I'll call you on it. So should your fellow citizens. If you're doing amazing, we should definitely excel and elevate you and personify those who are involved, those who personify trust, and those who give out their love to all the citizens. This is a movement that should encompass the peace and prosperity of you and your children. And it requires these three things of you, if at least as an expectation. This is the message I had to give. This is what I had to say, and I hope it sticks. This is your brother Farouk Hunter, with love and with the trust of our ability to govern ourselves. I say uhuru, assalamu alaikum, shalom, peace. Talk to you next time.